Okay, before I actually get started, I just want to say a couple things. I'm going to be doing this video because I think I have a lot of insight on the players in the Overwatch League. Not only did I compete against a lot of them over the past year, but I've also been an avid fan of Overwatch esports, from watching every Apex match in seasons 1 through 4 to watching a lot of these players on stream. Anyways, let's get into it. Coming in at number 20, we have CoolMatt. CoolMatt is an off-tank player for the Houston Outlaws. Known for being the best D.Va player to come out of the North American region, he has proven throughout his career that he is not only just the best D.Va in North America, but also one of the best players in the entire world. CoolMatt comes from one of the most OG teams in North America, Team Hubris. This team dominated the NA scene early on in closed beta, defeating teams with players like Seagull, Surefour, and many more. After doing so well early on, Team Hubris was one of the first teams in Overwatch to sign a huge org, Envious. Many people don't know this, but before the Envious we have known for so long, their first roster was made up of completely different players. After a short run as Envious, CoolMatt's team ended up signing with Fnatic, where it competed in several major events including ESL's Atlantic Showdown, placing 3rd through 4th, E-League's Overwatch Open, placing 3rd through 4th, DreamHack Winter, placing 2nd, MLG Vegas, placing 3rd through 4th, and then Apex Season 2, placing 9th through 12th. After his long run on Fnatic, he would end up competing with FNR GFE in Contenders, placing top 4 in Season 1. With his career being so successful prior to the Overwatch League, there was no reason for him to not make it. With an incredible showing in the preseason against world-class teams like Seoul and Dallas, CoolMatt has proved he deserves to be on this list and in the Overwatch League. Coming in at number 19, we have CarP. CarP is a DPS player for Philadelphia Fusion. It was hard for me to put anyone from Philly on this list since they didn't even compete in the preseason, but if I were to select one player from their team, it would have to be CarP. The funny thing about CarP is that he actually made his professional debut with the Korean team BK Stars in a North American tournament called the Rivalcade. Many people did not expect a Korean team that placed 3rd through 4th in Season 1 of Apex to be competing in a Tier 2 NA tournament. This took us all by surprise, and of course we all expected BK to smash everyone. But it actually didn't go too well for CarP and his team. They would end up facing Selfless in the semifinals, where they endured a brutal 4-minute spawn camp on Hollywood. With a quick 2-0 defeat to Selfless, CarP's debut definitely didn't go as planned. It would prove to only be a minor setback though, as CarP would move on to Apex Seasons 2 and 3 and earn a name for himself on McCree and Genji. CarP would find himself unsatisfied with his team placing 9th through 12th 2 seasons in a row, and he would look for opportunities overseas. CarP would move over to North America and join Team Selfless. He would also have the task of filling one of the greatest players' shoes to ever touch this game, Fran. After not quite being able to qualify for Season 1 contenders though, he would end up joining FaZe, who did qualify. CarP would have an incredible run through Season 1, tearing through teams left and right on Tracer. His performance in contenders made him one of the most sought out players in the Overwatch League, and he is now rumored to be one of the highest paid players in the entire league. CarP has shown he has incredible aim, and he is definitely a player to watch out coming into the regular season. CoolMatt isn't the only outlaw on this list. Coming in at number 18, we have Rekkles. For over a year, Rekkles played under FaZe, where he competed in almost every single NA tournament, with peak performances in MLG Vegas placing 2nd, and in Contender Season 1 also placing 2nd. Although FaZe was never really able to break through and become known as one of the best teams in the entire world, they were still a staple, and Rekkles was always able to prove he is going to show up and perform big for his team. For a while now, Rekkles has been known for being one of the best supports in North America. With so much to offer, he found himself on Team USA in the World Cup. With standout performances in Season 1 and at the World Cup, no wonder Rekkles found himself on the Houston Outlaws. With high-pressure situations in this preseason against world-class teams like Seoul and Dallas, he performed at an extremely high level, just like his fellow teammate CoolMatt. I knew I was going to have to put Rekkles on this list no matter what. It was just a matter of where I'd put him. So I think number 18 is the perfect spot. We can expect big things from Rekkles and the Houston Outlaws coming in the regular season. In the 17th spot, we have Taimu from Dallas Fuel. Taimu would be higher on this list if it wasn't for his lackluster performance in the preseason. Dallas ended up finishing 2-0, but it seemed like Taimu was struggling against some of the other Widows in the league. Although he had an off performance in the preseason though, it would still be impossible to not include him on this list. I mean, come on. Have you seen his aim, guys? For anyone who doesn't know who Taimu is though, he must be living under a rock or not followed esports at all on the Overwatch scene. Taimu is quite possibly one of the most known professional players in the entire world in Overwatch. He comes from the dominant Envious roster, which is the first team to ever defeat a Korean team in a major Korean esports event. Envious did just about everything there was to do in Overwatch, from winning every single North American event they competed in, to becoming one of the most famous Overwatch teams in the entire world. They even went on a 50-plus match winning streak at one point. Taimu is known for being one of the best raw aimers in the entire world. Mastering heroes like Widowmaker and McCree have made him one of the most exciting players to spectate. Sure, he might have not had an amazing showing in the preseason, but let's be honest guys, it's Taimu and it's the preseason. I think we can all sit here and agree he will be a player to watch once come regular season, and especially when the playoffs come, he'll definitely turn up. At number 16, we have New York Excelsior's Mako. Some of you might not be too familiar with Mako if you don't follow the Korean Overwatch esports scene. He played off-tank for LW Blue, which is now made up of New York Excelsior. LW Blue were always a top playoff contender and once favorites to win all of Apex. Throughout their existence, Mako was always a consistent top performer for LW Blue, always making exciting plays on Zarya and D.Va. Similarly to FaZe and NA, LW Blue were always on the cusp of being known as one of the world's greatest teams, but they could never quite get there. They peaked in the end of 2016, winning an IEM event. Mako is known by fellow pros for being one of the best off-tanks in the entire game. Once even Birdring mentioned him in an interview, saying he was one of the most flexible players the game has ever seen, and if you were to ever start a team with any player in the game, the first player he would ever pick would be Mako. Being able to flex to any hero on any map at any time makes Mako a crucial player for his team. Mako and New York Excelsior finished the preseason with a victory over Boston and an okay showing against the powerhouse Seoul Dynasty. Come the regular season, New York will have Jonak back, and we can expect a much stronger team, and I'm sure Mako will be a player to watch. Surprise, surprise, at number 15, we have another outlaw, and this time it's going to be Jake. Jake is not only an incredible player, but he is also a stand-up member of our community. Throughout his career, he has delivered us with top-tier content, giving insight on the game that casual players might not understand at first, and then breaking it down for us. Jake only competed with one roster for his entire career, Bird Noises and LG Evil. Jake brings a lot to the table for a team. He is able to flex to almost every DPS hero, and is capable of being a leader inside and outside the game. On Kongarna, I spent a lot of this past year competing against Jake, and from my team's experience, he was always the standout player. We knew that if we were able to control him and shut him down, we have a much easier time beating his team. But if we couldn't contain him, it would always slip away from us. Jake also played on Team USA in the World Cup with CoolMatt and Rekkles, where they barely lost to Team Korea. I think being a part of Team USA with CoolMatt and Rekkles made them all want to play together in the Overwatch League. As I mentioned already, the Outlaws had a great performance versus world-class teams in this preseason, and I think a lot of this was due to Jake. He pulled out a wide variety of heroes and played at an all-star level on every single one of them. I mean, come on, who even expected him to bust out the Tracer? Every tournament, it seems like Jake surprises us more and more. I expect big things from him and the Outlaws coming this official season. At number 14, it's going to be the Los Angeles Valiant's Unko. I know I've already talked about Unko in some of my videos recently, but if you haven't heard me praise him yet, I'll do it again. Fortunately, I've had the opportunity to compete against some of the world's best players, and Unko by far is the best Zenyatta I've ever played against. From scrims to tournament matches, Unko was always a force to be reckoned with. Unko played under Rogue for almost his entire career. Rogue was one of the most dominant teams this game has ever seen. Unko and Rogue were the first team to dethrone Envious and end their inconceivable winning streak of 50-plus games. Rogue would continue to dominate the NA scene and do fairly decent in Korean tournaments. They only ran into problems during the World Cup and Contender Season 1, where they struggled and lost to a lot of teams that no one considered to be near their level. Despite not being able to compete at a level Rogue used to, Unko was able to still show us that he was an incredible player. If anyone from Rogue's roster were to make the league, it would have to be Unko and soon. In the preseason, Unko had a great showing in both matches versus San Francisco Shock and rival Los Angeles Gladiators. With how the Los Angeles Valiant performed in the preseason, the expectations are going to be extremely high, and I know Unko will be one of the first to meet them. At number 13, we have New York Excelsior's Pine. Pine played for both LW Red and Blue over the course of his Overwatch career. The first time we seen a Korean team play in an NA tournament was last year in September, when Pine's team LW Red started competing in the Gosu Gamers Overwatch Weekly. Pine was already known in the Overwatch scene for being a crazy TF2 player, so when they won the weekly, it was to no surprise. Pine would continue to play for LW Red and the Tier 2 Korean scene for some time, though he would eventually be moved to the LW Blue roster in Season 3 of Apex, where he saw some playing time on the big stage. LW Blue were running a 7-man roster with a stacked DPS lineup of Sabiobli, Flower, and Pine. With Flower not being eligible for the Overwatch League due to age, it seemed that LW Blue were grooming Pine to be their star once the Overwatch League comes. With big shoes to fill going into the league, Pine was rumored to be one of the best Widows in the game. Pine definitely showed up in the preseason, delivering top-notch performances on Genji, Junkrat, and Widowmaker against Boston. He then started off really strong against Seoul Dynasty on Junkertown, but unfortunately, it didn't last long, as the stacked beast that is Seoul Dynasty started shutting him down. Going into the regular season though, Pine will be a key role in New York's success. If he is able to deliver, then New York should be a top playoff contender. Speaking of Seoul Dynasty, at number 12, we have Zumba. Zumba has been known to be the world's best Zarya for a long time now, from building his gravitons at an unbelievably fast pace to shocking the world with insane movement and jumps. He is just that insane at Zarya. But being so good at Zarya has only overshadowed how good he is at D.Va too. His D.Va play is one of the best you can find in all of the world. Zumba played for Conbox in Season 1 of Apex. Conbox didn't do so well though, but Zumba was already known at the time to be one of the best players in the entire world, and then got picked up by Lunatic High for Season 2, where they eventually won the entire tournament. Some could say Zumba was the addition that Lunatic High needed to go from a top playoff contender to one of the greatest teams in Overwatch history. Not only did Zumba play for Lunatic High, but he was also on both South Korean World Cup teams 2016 and 2017, where he took gold twice. Zumba has had an incredible track record of success, and now he is part of Seoul Dynasty, quite possibly the soon-to-be Overwatch League Season 1 champions. Expectations are through the roof for Seoul Dynasty and Zumba, but he is used to it and will be an amazing player come the regular season. Rounding out the first 10 of our top 20 players, we have Seoul Dynasty's Tobi. It's extremely hard to gauge how good a Lucio player is, whether you're playing with, against, or watching him from a tournament, because you just don't get the full story. So because of that, you won't find many former Lucio mains on this list. But Tobi is an exceptional player, and his mechanics and communication are insane. I remember watching my first OGN Apex open mic video, and hearing Tobi's communication. He was going absolutely ballistic on the comms, calling targets at a hyper speed. He's praised in the Korean community alongside Ryuhong as the greatest support duo in the world. Tobi has had long-term success on Lunatic High, winning back-to-back Apex titles in Season 2 and 3. He also competed with Zumba in the World Cup this year, taking home gold for his country. Luckily, we still get to see some Lucio maps, but now that we're in a Mercy-favored meta, he is definitely no slouch. Constantly being in the right position and never dying with his Valk, he does exactly what you need from a Mercy, even busting out the Torbjorn in their final game against Houston Outlaws to close out the series. He performed exceptionally well in the preseason, and him and Ryuhong are the only supports on Seoul Dynasty, so we can see him in every single game come the regular season. That does it for this video, boys. If you agree or disagree with my picks, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscription. Again, be sure to be subscribed so you can tune in for the next video as we continue the countdown to the top 10 players in the Overwatch League.